Welcome into episode 520 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. And Bridget and Scott, the Bruins lose to the Seattle Kraken 7-4. The good news, it's the last 10 p.m. game that we have to wait up for this season for the Boston Bruins. The bad news, it's the 8th time in 43 games the Bruins have surrendered at least 6 goals in the game. I don't know about you guys, that's not really a recipe for a playoff team, is it?
No, it's not. And doesn't go right into my opening shift, which is this team made it clear that one of their missions this year was to be hard to play against, right? That was going to be part of their identity. And I think they've succeeded in stretches. There have definitely been times this season that they've been hard to play against, even for, weeks on end. But lately, it has not happened often enough. In fact, there have been too many games where they have made things quite easy on their opponents. And Tuesday night in Seattle was one of them, where this Kraken team is one of the worst offenses in the NHL. They do not score a lot. They do not create a lot of chances. They were also playing without 3 of their top 8 scorers. Eeli Tolvanen sick. Jaden Schwartz is hurt. Brandon Montour's out. They were playing on the second night of a back-to-back. If you're the Bruins, this is a game where you can win that game just by forcing the Kraken to make plays and create chances, because chances are they're not going to be able to do it. And instead, the Bruins handed them chances, just grade A scoring opportunities time and time again. Like you see a 7-4 final and you think, well, Kraken must have played a great game. No, they really didn't, honestly. Like, if you watch that game, I really didn't think the Kraken did much of anything. And Marco Sturm even said that after the game in his NESN interview. He said that they didn't do anything. Like, they went back, they got the puck, they stopped, they went up and down the ice, and we made mistakes. And that's exactly right. Like, handed them an extended 5-on-3 early in the game. Turnovers, lost battles behind the net. Giving up a goal and then immediately taking an offensive zone penalty and giving up a power play goal. Like, stuff that just made that game way too easy for Seattle. And that's happened too much recently. The Bruins have now they've lost by 3 or more goals 5 times in their last 11 games. This was the 4th time. Brian, you mentioned how many times they've given up 6 or more. This was the 4th time just in the last month that they've given up 6 or more goals. So Marco Sturm after the game called him immature, and I know Bridget's going to get more into post-game comments, but like, yeah, that was way too easy. And when you start to have, a handful of these games kind of bunch up in a month, it kind of starts to become a defining characteristic. And right now, this team is not hard to play against, and they are falling out of the playoff race as a result.
Yeah, I'll go into my opening shift because, like Scott mentioned, there was a few other things that caught my eye in terms of comments post game, and the first one was another from Marco Sturm. He said, "I'll take a 500 road trip anytime," and this wasn't the one that was on NESN. I don't know if people were able to track down some of the other media. If you were looking for the whole thing, it's on the Bruins YouTube. But I just want to get your immediate reaction to that comment.
No, he shouldn't be at all satisfied with the 500 road trip. Not when it ends that way. Like, not when you just throw a game away. And I would also just point out that, like, hockey 500, which is what they were, right? They were 2-2-1. So technically, just in terms of wins, they were not 500. They won 2, lost 3. But they were hockey 500. You know where hockey 500 gets you? Well out of the playoffs. Like, yep. Teams that are hockey 500 don't make the playoffs. So maybe if you're like so dominant at home that you can afford it, okay, maybe 500 road trips is a success. You just lost 4 games at home before this road trip. So you have not been dominant enough at home to be satisfied with the 500 road trip.
Yeah, and both Pasternak and McAvoy talked after the game too, and the 2 main things that they brought up were not taking advantage of opportunities, meaning like with yesterday, they played Seattle when Seattle was coming off a back-to-back. Theoretically, the Bruins should have been rested. And they were not using that as an excuse. They said they were rested, they weren't feeling tired. And the other one was penalties, which has just plagued them. I'll read Pasternak's quote on that. He said, "We all are aware of the penalties, and it's been a big topic in this room. Just move our feet. Stick penalties happen when you don't move your feet. It comes like a snowball, but it has to stop at some point."
Yeah, I mean, and Pasternak himself was guilty of that in the third period. And I'm sure everyone felt the same way. Like, I thought at the time, well, the game's out of reach anyways. It was 5-2 at the time. They give up a goal on that, and Pasternak just takes a lazy reach-in hook in the offensive zone, really just out of frustration. Kraken score on that power play to make it 6-2. Well, as it turns out, like, maybe the game wasn't over because the Bruins scored 2 goals after that and then, had some chances in the final minute. Like, I don't know if Pasternak doesn't take that penalty, do they maybe mount a comeback or at least put them in a position to, score a tying goal with a minute left or something? Like, you don't know. It's when your leader takes a penalty like that, where it really just looks like a give up play. Like, I mean, essentially that is the end of the game at that point.
Yeah, and he did, right before the quote that I read, he did say he was guilty of it himself as well with the penalties. But I don't know, Brian, what your thoughts are on the whole, like, the snowball part of it. I feel like at this point, the snowball is the size of the boulder in Indiana Jones. And it's just like, you can't slow it down. It's just coming and it just keeps getting bigger. And he's right. Because that's kind of how it felt. And I thought it was kind of funny that he put it into words a similar way that maybe I would have thought about it, with it just seeming like it gets more and more and they feed into each other. And the Bruins are still the most penalized team. I believe, Scott, right? They still have the most time shorthanded in the NHL. So it has continued to bite them too. And even, I don't know if you guys thought the start wasn't bad and they did look like they had more energy. They were rested. And then things fall apart in the last 2 minutes of the second period was really, I feel, where they lost the game, because that's when it goes from 2-2 to 4-2. And they give up 2 goals in the final 2 minutes of that game. One of them was a power play goal because Steve took a slashing penalty. And then McCann scored with 0.5 seconds left in the period. And it just felt like, I think, Brian, you mentioned this before we started recording. I felt this way. End of the second period, I'm thinking to myself, should I just go to bed? It seems like I kind of know what's going to happen after just the quick unravel at the end of the second period.
Yeah, I mean, the undisciplined nature of this team is infuriating, and it was on full display last night. We've talked about how their penalty kill has dipped quite a bit over the last month and a half, so they're not getting away with the penalties and infractions they've been taking all year. And yeah, like when the Bruins are in a 2-2 game and you're in a situation now where like the McCann goal at the end of the second period, I saw that coming because I see a puck being rimmed around the boards from the right point, and it's a 50, what should have been a 50-50 battle between Andrew Peeke and whoever was pinching on the left side boards, and Peake's just kind of going half-assed to it. And so lo and behold, Seattle wins the race to the puck. They keep it in. And then, 8 seconds later, it's like it's in the back of the net. And of course, like that, just you get to that puck and you just extend your stick and just like I don't know. I just don't understand some of the mental lapses that happen sometimes with this team. Maybe it's due to fatigue or whatnot. I don't know, but it's I'm watching that play and I'm like, you have a 50-50 puck with a chance to 10 seconds left in the period. Like, get into a battle, make body contact, like do something where it's not just an easy pinch on what's a 50-50 puck. And now McCann gets not one but 2 one-timer opportunities off that play, and Cass like slowly get to the point on the whole thing was infuriating. And
Aspro screened Swayman, like obviously inadvertently, but just adds to kind of just the detail slipping in the final seconds of a period where it's like it's a one-timer from the point. Like Jared McCann is 50 feet away from the net. if you're not absolutely 1000% blocking the shot, just let your goalie see that. Like, Swayman's not getting beat clean on a one-timer from the point. And if he is, shame on him. But he gets beat on that one because Aspero ends up screening him. And it's just like, along with the other, with what you just covered, like, it's just one guy after another, details slipping, and you can't even survive till the intermission.
And there was a shame on him moment for Swayman earlier in the second period where he should. So
two of the, I mean, the first two goals, there's a shame on Swayman moment. One, the penalty, just an unnecessary slash, 9 seconds into a penalty kill to give Seattle a 5-on-3. And and then just getting beat on a shot that as Nesson showed on the replay, wasn't even going on net. That Catton shot was going wide, and Swayman just is in the totally wrong position and knocks it in, like, with his blocker or shaft of his stick.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the 5-on-3 because we talked about a few of the Steve's penalty that they score on, the Pasternak penalty, but it all started in the first period when Zadorov. What?
I was just gonna say, do we want to let Brian do his opening shift?
No, well, I feel like I'm almost done with it. I feel like we're almost done with this. So just Zadorov takes a penalty, and this is what happens with our opening shift sometimes. But and then Swayman, like you mentioned, takes a penalty 9 seconds later, and Eberle drew that penalty and immediately scores on the 5-on-3. And I was watching the game with my roommate, and I was like, this is going to be a 1-0 game real quick here. Because you can't give a team almost a full 2 minutes of 5-on-3 and expect them not to score. And it happened real quick. And so that was how they originally got in their first hole of the game. They were down 1-0 in the first period because 2 penalties really close together. And it was kind of the start of feeling like, okay, well, lessons were not learned, and we're doing the same thing here.
No, it's the same old song and dance with them. And listen, I'm sure there's going to be more time in this episode to get to the undisciplined nature of this team. Ironically, as much as we've talked about the PK and the penalties, which absolutely bit the Bruins in the ass, I actually think it was a power play opportunity that the Bruins had in the second period when it was 2-2 that they didn't capitalize on, that I think bit them in the ass. I don't think it was a poorly ran power play. I think they had some looks, but you want to talk about a moment in a game where if the Bruins can do something, it could be a different outcome. It's that power play. They get their first power play of the game. Took them what felt like nearly 2 periods to do so. And I thought the Bruins did have the better of the play, and they weren't able to capitalize on that power play. And next thing you know, a few minutes later, now it's 3-2 Seattle. Now it's 4-2. So it's the special teams in both categories. I know the power play has been good this year. It's actually one of the only metrics that really is a strength of this team, but it didn't come through for them, at least in the second period last night. It did help them quickly in garbage time, but that was the second unit. Yes. Let me get to the opening shift that I have real quick, and then we can get rid of that banner, Bridget, because I'm sure our YouTube viewers are like, get it down, get it down. So we all know the Bruins have an issue at 5-on-5, generating chances, extended offensive zone time, and certainly producing. They really lean heavily on the power play. Well, I found myself really honing in on Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha as two main reasons as to why the team is struggling at even strength. If you look at the team's individual statistics, you quickly look at them and you see Pavel Zacha with 27 points in 42 games. He's third on the team in scoring, tied with Elias Lindholm, who has 27 points in 33 games. Okay, so Elias has 27 points in 33 games. That's not bad. And no, it's not bad, right? I mean, they're your third and fourth leading scorers on the team behind Pasternak and Geekie. And at surface level, it seems like, okay, they're doing what they're supposed to do, which in part is true in terms of total grand total point production. Still like to see more from Zacha, but either way. But 5-on-5. Okay, so Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha have 54 combined points this year. 24 of those are at even strength. That means that the other 30, over half of that production, is coming mainly on the power play, and then a couple of points, I think 3 or 4 points total between the two of them, were empty net goal situations for Boston. That's your number one and number two. You have a correction, Scott?
So actually, to make this might even make it worse. If you want to drill down to just 5-on-5 and take out like 3-on-3 overtimes, they have 18 points combined at 5-on-5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even think to do the 3-on-3 numbers. Okay, yeah. So 5-on-5 is
Yeah, I think Brian, you were looking at even strength numbers, which would include 3-on-3, 4-on-4.
Which is still valid. Like that's so 24 of their 54 points are even strength. But Scott, you said it's 18 at 5-on-5.
Yep.
Okay, so like even more so, right? Like that's your number 1 and number 2 center. You want to wonder why Boston's 5-on-5 even strength generation and production is lacking. Well, look at your number 1 and number 2 centers. And I know that Elias Lindholm is not the grand plan in Boston for number 1 center, especially now with the drafting of James Higgins. You know the future is bright at that position. And we have 2 first-round picks coming up this year, at least as we speak now, and some other good prospects in the wing. So, I'm not talking long term, but right now they are being paid to be your number 1, number 2 guys up the middle, and I just don't see enough from them. I don't see enough generation. I don't see enough line driving from them. And if it's not who they are naturally, I'm not even debating that. But guess what? I don't know. It's just not good enough. And Morgan Geekie has gone 11 of his last 13 games without scoring a goal. Okay, the kid's been on fire for the last year. Let's cut him a break here for a couple of weeks. Maybe Elias and Pavel would like to step up for a minute while Geekie's on a bit of a cold streak. I don't know. Those 2 guys, it's like I don't expect much from Victor Arvidsson, who's actually playing above his skis right now. Bridget pointed out last episode. Casey Middlestat, he is who he is. You need your number 1 and number 2 center to be a lot better 5-on-5 than those 2 guys have been. I'm talking point generation and chance generation. So
yeah, they each have 9 points at 5-on-5 this season, which is tied for 13th on the Bruins.
Yeah, can you go your top? Sorry, yeah, can you go through this at the top?
Yeah, so first is Morgan Geekie, 23 points. Second is David Pastrnak, 22. Then Victor Arvidsson and Tanner Jeannot tied for third with 14. And then Casey Middlestat and Mason Lohrei each with 12. Some other guys who have more 5-on-5 points than Lindholm and Zacha. Mark Kastelik has 11. Fraser Minton, 11. Nikita Zadorov, 11. Murat Husnudinov, 10. And Sean Corrali, your 4th-line center, has 10.
Well, that's all you need to know right there. I mean, I didn't go into this podcast today being like, oh, I can't wait to rip Lindholm and Zacha's even. But it's just been glaring. You watch this team and you see them struggle at even strength. And when they're healthy on the back end, you have guys that can move the puck. McAvoy can move it. Lohrei can move it. Zadorov can move it. Like you have guys up front. You have Pastrnak. You have Geekie. You have guys like some younger players too, like Minton's. Like we all like what Minton's doing. You have guys that you can like on this team, and they should be doing more at 5-on-5. If you got anything more from these 2 positions at even strength. I know I keep using even strength and 5-on-5 interchangeably. I shouldn't be doing that, but yeah, I think people get what I'm saying. Like it's either way. It's just I don't know. It's inexcusable. Like to be 13th on the roster at that metric, and you're the number 1, number 2 center. Come on.
Well, and Brian, you mentioned like Elias Lindholm not supposed to be the number 1 center of the future now that they drafted James Higgins, but when they signed him 2 seasons ago, he was supposed to be the number 1 center for the future, and they gave him a really long-term contract, and so he's still going to be with the Bruins for another 5 years. So he's on the books to be a center here for the long term because he's got a no move. And so, I'm sure it'd be fine if he was the number 2 center, but I do think that originally they were hoping to get him to be that number 1 guy. And also James Higgins is going to be, we think, a really good player, obviously a really high pick, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be your number one center as soon as he steps on the ice, which may be as soon as this spring, but there's going to need to be a transition period as well. So it does make you kind of question what's the next step for both of those guys, for Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha. Is it just, you back them up or you shuffle them from first to second or what have you, or is one of them gone? And I think the answer is, with a no move, it seems unlikely that Elias Lindholm is out of the picture fully by the time that James Hagens maybe starts to hit his stride in the NHL.
Can I, just because this I've started to think about this more, because I do unfortunately think this Bruins team is trending towards not being a playoff team. They're going to have to, really pick things up to pull themselves out of it and get truly like back in the middle of that race where you can believe that this team has any chance of doing anything this year.
And you think that because they didn't hit my 3-1-1 road trip metric, right?
Exactly.
Again,
we said this on Monday, right? Like that the headline of this podcast is Bruins season ends with loss in Seattle. The season's over, right?
I know it's dramatic, but tell me things look good right now. They really don't.
No, they don't. And so
our listeners, just like myself, was sitting on the couch last night going, if they don't go 3-1-1, they're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it was a sad handshake line post game. Some guys breaking down in tears and knowing that this is it.
Lose a meeting against either Pittsburgh or Detroit, and let's really see how those playoff chances look, because those are two teams that you need to jump over. But I didn't mean to derail you, Scott. I apologize.
No, so in all seriousness, so this is not a suggestion of something the Bruins need to or should do right now. But if this next month goes poorly and you come out of the Olympic, or either go into the Olympic break or come out of the Olympic break, and it starts to set in that, like, you know what, we got to sell off some pieces again and get some assets, keep replenishing the pool. And like, that's just the right thing to do this season. Let's say you get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I know some fans are already there. The team doesn't need to be there yet. Are you more open to trading Pavel Zacha? For all the reasons we just laid out. A couple things. One, his point total is probably inflated by the fact that he's on what has been a very good top power play unit. The 5-on-5 production and stuff under the hood has not been great. You do have what you hope are 3 centers lined up for the future, right? Like, you hope Hagens is your 1C. Elias Lindholm kind of by default has to be your 2C for at least a couple more years, or maybe Fraser Minton passes them. But either way, those are your 2 and 3 Cs, you would think. Centers are going to have a ton of value because there are not going to be many available. You just saw extensions for Alex Wenberg and Christian Dvorak that I think probably had some sticker shock, and that's because they're on teams that are just like, you know what, maybe we can do better than this, but we have these guys and we don't want to lose them, so we're going to sign them. You're right. Philly thinks they're making a playoff push. San Jose's right around it in the West. So we know there are going to be other teams looking for centers who are either in the playoffs or trying to get in the playoffs. A couple of things. Like, one, I feel like Zacha can look at those deals and be like, I've produced more than those guys. $6 million plus a year is not at all going to be crazy for Pavel Zacha to ask for on an extension. And two, just trade wise, I think a player like Zacha should get you a lot in return. Like, if you move him, you're talking at least the Coyle Carlo type of package, like first round pick, prospect. I don't know. It's just, again, that they don't have to be there just yet, but probably for the first time, because early this season when Zacha's name popped up, I was like, why would you trade Pavel Zacha right now? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think this week post New Year's for the first time, I really find myself kind of like seriously considering this and thinking about what it could land for the Bruins and like how it could set them up moving forward.
Yeah, it's tough because I mean, Zacha is a versatile guy too. He's not just a center; he's a wing, which is actually probably more to your point, like adding to your point, Scott. That he's probably gonna fetch a lot because he can do both. Maybe, maybe you're not even looking for a center. Maybe you're looking for a fit that can do both. Or maybe you have a few centers you like, you want to try him there, but you feel comfortable if he doesn't fit there, putting him on a wing, and he has good power play numbers like you guys are mentioning, and it's would hurt to lose him for sure, because he's definitely one of those guys that is, as even though you're talking about the 5-on-5 numbers being down, like he's been a really good addition since he's come to the Bruins. His contract has always been reasonable. Obviously he's not at the end of this season, right? Or is the end of next season his contract is up, or is
Correct.
Right. Yeah, there's another year after this.
So he still has another year on a very reasonable contract. And but I think maybe you see a first and another good prospect like what they got for Carlo, and you how can you turn it down, right? Like you're in the business of, at that point, if you're out of the playoffs, trying to collect assets, and you may only have Zacha for another year after this anyway. So I feel like it would be pretty tempting if there was a first involved, and probably more, because if that's what you got for Carlo, who I know he's like, he's a second pair defenseman. That's something a lot of playoff teams are trying to add, but centers too. Like, and Zacha at times for the Bruins has been a first line center too, right? Like he's played second line center, he's played second line wing, he's played first line center and wing at different points. So he's a top six guy, solidly top six guy. And those are guys that get a lot in return normally.
Yeah, I think it's something the Bruins are talking about. I do. I think it's probably something that they've considered in the last little while, just because you always have to keep your options open. Otherwise you're not doing your job as a manager. But I think that for all the reasons you guys have laid out, I think you make a strong case. His value may be at its highest at this year's deadline, with him having another year of control beyond this season at that cap hit. I understand that the NHL is a special teams league nowadays, right? So it's great that he could be used in all situations. He's a good guy in the power play. He's a good guy in the PK. This has been a straight up 5-on-5 conversation. So it's not that 5-on-5 is the whole game. We know that. But how would you like his 5-on-5 production at this rate if he were making $2 million more, and he's getting older, and he's under contract with probably some no moves on his next deal? Like, I just think I like the player. I do. I think he leaves a lot to be desired sometimes, in terms of just sometimes you just wish he was harder on the puck, harder on forecheck. Sometimes he's a little bit too nice out there, and I wonder what his career shooting percentage is, because he's a guy that he gets opportunities, it feels like, here and there. He just doesn't convert. He does here and there, and oftentimes when he does convert, it's like a really nice shot or a really nice finish, and you say to yourself, why can that not be more of the norm for him? But like last night's a perfect example. He gets a shot right in the slot all alone, just kind of rushed it, doesn't make anything of it. So do I think Pavel Zacha at age 30, 31, 2, 3, 4, 5 can, on the right deal, can be a versatile middle six player for this team that has James Hagens, Will Zellers, whoever you draft in the next couple of first rounds on a team as well as time goes on? Like, yeah, I think there's a world where he is. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I think if you get the right deal for him, I absolutely would consider moving him, more so now than I did earlier in the year. Because what are you really getting from him at even strength? 5-5. Like, what are you really getting from him? You're getting a guy that he's responsible defensively, but I don't know. He needs to do more. If he's going to be in this type of role, he needs to do more at even strength in terms of production. And I don't want to hold everybody to the standard of Patrice Bergeron or David Krejci, right? Because we saw what those guys did for nearly 20 years. They were constantly getting 60 to 70 points, and they were just they're some of the best players in the Bruins franchise's history. But you look around the league, and number one, number two centers, they're always more dangerous at 5-on-5 than what we've seen from Lindholm and Zacha. And Lindholm in particular too. The way he just, at least Zacha gets a chance. Like Lindholm to me at 5-on-5, he's just out there. He's just a guy. He doesn't really do anything. Zacha at least does do things here and there with Arvidsson and Middlestad, and they have their. Lindholm's just a passenger on his line in the offensive zone sometimes. Like he gets in the mix, but he doesn't. Does he put fear? Does the other team go, oh God, Elias Lindholm's out there, we got to get our top? Like, no. They might be saying that about Geeky and Pasternak, but I don't know. He doesn't do anything for me at 5-on-5.
Yeah, so just to put some numbers to it, because I didn't have them up when I started, but so Zacha's cap hit $4.75 million. Christian Dvorak just extended with the Flyers for 5 years, $5.15 million per year. He is playing on the Flyers' top line right now, but has never had more than 40 points in a season. Alex Wenberg with the Sharks signed a 3-year extension, $6 million AAV. He has had more than 40 points once in his career, and that was way back in 2016-17 in Columbus. So I'm sure Pavel Zacha, who has, been mid to high 50s in points a couple times, is probably him and his agent probably salivating looking at those numbers for guys who have produced significantly less than him. So I just think that has to be part of the equation for the Bruins, is like, not only are you going to extend him at age 30, 31, but are you going to do it for potentially 6.5, $7 million a year, maybe even more, depending on how much crazier the market gets between now and the end of the next season? Or are you going to cash in now and get what I think would be a lot in return?
Well, and he's not. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just going to say, like, just something to keep in mind. Again, not a decision they have to make right now, January 7th, but one they might have to make here over the next couple months.
And he's not one of these bridge contract candidates. I don't think he's going to be a 2-3 year deal type guy. He's gonna want term. He's going to be entering the second half of his career. He's going to want that term. And just on the flip side of it, here's the risk you do run if you do trade him. Because if you do trade him, I think you're getting a lot for him. You're talking about a top 6 forward that has a great contract right now. I know we're kind of talking about his deficiencies at 5-on-5, but he's still a good contract for everything he brings in all facets of the game and his versatility. So if you're a team acquiring him this year, you're getting him at another year of 4.75, and so Boston's going to get, I think, more this year than they would at, say, next year's trade deadline. You're going to get a good prospect, maybe a young player, and a first round pick. You should. So long term, that's good asset management, I think. But the last thing this Bruins team needs to do right now, in the here and now, if they want to be a playoff team next year, is take away from where you're already deficient, which is top 6 forwards. So if you do trade Pavel Zacha, what does that mean in terms of your top 6 forward group next year? Okay, it's easy to bank on James Higgins. He has to get acclimated to the NHL. To rely on a rookie 19-year-old kid is foolish. He may have an unreal rookie year. He may be in a Calder race, but you can't expect that. So if you trade Zacha this year, if you're the Bruins, what does next year look like? Are you trying to do some sort of other trade in the offseason, or somebody in free? Like, what now you got to replace Zacha, who is, one of probably 3 or 4 legit top 6 forwards you have right now on your team.
And I wanted to bring this up too, and you tell me if you think this is something that factors in. I've been playing this out in my head while you guys were talking, and I think it does factor in. But I want your opinion on like how. I think that the fact that he's playing with Arvidsson and Middlestat is also a determining factor because it can go 2 ways. Those 2 guys may also be trade deadline pieces. Are you going to sell off multiple of your middle 6 pieces? Are you going to sell off that entire line? Like, who are you selling off in the middle 6? And then how long does it take you to recoup enough players to remake a middle 6?
I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say this. To me, Victor Arvidsson is somebody that you can replace with, a lot of guys. You can replace him internally right now if you really wanted to, I would say. I'm sure somebody down in Providence could maybe come in and give you 30 points in a year or 2.
I mean, when he's missed time and they've put either Steves or Husnudinov on that line, it hasn't really like completely fallen apart. Like those guys have been fine.
He's more short term anyway.
Yeah.
But like my point is, and I guess I should probably say top 6 because technically they're not on the third line. So like top 6 guys that have been hard to come by, and we saw what they were able to do in free agency. There weren't a lot of guys that came available. And so now you're getting rid of maybe 2 of the guys that you've been using in your top 6. If you get rid of Middlestat too, like that's 2 guys that can play center or wing that you're trading away if they sell at the deadline kind of heavily. If it comes down to Middlestat versus Zacha will get you more, but I also think the Bruins would rather keep him. And he brings more than Middlestat does. So
yeah,
it's a whole like, do you trade both at this like, or is that too risky that you're not going to be able to fill? Do you really think next year you're going to be able to fill in what maybe is missing this year and be a playoff team immediately, or is this like another step back? Because if you're banking on Hagens coming in and being that guy, like you said in his first year, Brian, like you're probably setting yourself up for another year of missing the playoffs. And we're talking about draft again, getting more draft picks and getting maybe a high pick. It could spiral from there, I feel. But I just wanted to bring up the fact that like the line that he's on, I also think that this way too. He can play next to Pastrnak, but he hasn't really much this season besides on the power play. If he were playing with Pastrnak the whole season, maybe we'd be having the argument, well, you can't get rid of him because Pasternak's with him. Like that's a reason in and of itself. That's enough of a reason to not do it. But that's not where he's been playing this year either. So, I mean, I think that who he's playing with factors in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arvidsson's gone. I think I would be surprised. I mean, unless they're in a playoff position at the trade deadline and Don Sweeney thinks that, he'd rather just do nothing. Like he's not going to be a buyer. He's going to do nothing. Like, which I wouldn't agree with. I think Victor Arvidsson's on the last year of his deal. I don't think he's coming back next year. And Scott just mentioned Husnudinov, Mintz, he's replaceable. So I think Arvidsson's gone. You want to make an argument? Well, that's not good for the room. Sure. I mean, he's been in Boston for less than a year. Like, it's the business, right? I expect Arvidsson to be traded. And I think that team's going to want him. The cost won't be too high for Arvidsson. I don't think. He's on an expiring contract, and he'll probably be like a middle 6 forward for somebody. Middlestat, I wonder how much teams would be willing to give up what Sweeney would ask for Middlestat. I mean the salary alone, like the cap hit alone, it's not terrible for him, especially with the cap going up. I just don't know if teams are licking their lips to add Middlestat. Like maybe for the right playoff team, he's like a third liner, but like, are they willing to give up the assets? Maybe, but and take on that contract? I don't know. I mean, Zacha is definitely the best player of the three and one that I think teams would covet and give a lot for. I think Arvidsson's easy to move. I think Zacha would be easy to move if you wanted to. I don't know how easy moving Middlestat would be in terms of a return that's worthwhile, unless you think just getting rid of the cap is good enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I also wonder just how the Bruins internally, like, truthfully feel about Middlestat at this point, because I think there would have been a time. I mean, think about how much his name popped up in trade rumors over the summer, and I think that was probably more in the vein of like, hey, if someone just wants to take this contract, like, you can have it. I don't think the Bruins definitely were not going to get anything of value for him over the summer, and yet his name kept popping up in rumors. Now, like, not that he's been great this year, but he's been solid. I think he's certainly played better hockey than he did last year. Even if the points are going to end up only slightly better. But like, do the Bruins internally look at him and think, hey, you know what? We actually like the way he's playing, and like maybe there is a fit here. And yeah, we're not going to just give him away. If someone wants to, give us something of value for him, sure, we'll consider it. Or do they still kind of look at it as like, yeah, you know what? He's been a little better than expected, but push comes to shove, this is still a contract we prefer to move on from. Right? Because like then you can still, position yourself in negotiations of like, hey, we like Casey Middlestat, we like the way he's played. But if you really just view him as, yeah, we kind of just want to get rid of this contract, then you'll take a not so great offer for him. So I honestly just don't know. Like, I don't know how Don Sweeney and his staff truly feel about Casey Middlestat right now. But yeah, Bridget, all the questions you raised though are very fair. Like, these are the exact conversations the Bruins are having, right? Is like, all right, if we slip out of this a little more, okay, there's a couple trades that would be easy to make, right? Arvidsson, you probably have to think a little bit more about Andrew Peeke, but ultimately I think that's another pending UFA that you probably wouldn't really hesitate as long as you get something close to the price you want. But then after that, yeah, the guys with term, like, that requires more thought and more care. And you're right, like those, you do have to talk about, hey, okay, what does this mean for us going forward, right? Like, we might like the value we can get for Pavel Zacha, but does that stretch us out to a 3 or 4 year retool instead of really trying to get back in this by next season? So, yeah, I'm sure this is what the Bruins are talking about behind the scenes, and will continue to, up until and through the Olympic break.
And I feel like you could flip all three of those second line guys for a profit. If you're Sweeney and it's like no chance that you're making the playoffs and you're at the deadline and you're thinking, could I get more value for them now than I gave up for them? And I think the answer is yes, probably for those three. Maybe Middlestat might be equal to where you got them. But if you think about Victor Arvidsson, I think was just a 5th round pick, right? Like, can you flip that for a slightly higher pick or a player like that you could flip? I see that being like okay, we can make a profit here in terms of getting more back than what we gave up. Zacha was, if I remember this correctly, a 1-for-1 with Eric Haula going to the Devils. You could get more back than an Eric Haula in this situation for Zacha. So like, you could get maybe significantly more back if you're getting a first and a prospect. So that would be turning a profit. And then Middlestat, if you are also just concerned with getting his contract off the books and you can get something in return that's I mean, I don't want to compare it 1-for-1 with Charlie Coyle because what they got back for Coyle was more than just Middlestat. But I think that you could see a situation where Sweeney says, I could really turn this into more than we had originally when we got each of these guys.
By the way, I know last episode we mentioned like some of the Olympic calls. Did you see Eric Haula's comments?
No.
So he got called by, I don't know if it's Finland's coach or GM, on Christmas morning to tell him he had made it. So I guess that, they must have told their players a little earlier than the others. And he said he was really nervous when he saw the number come up. And then he was like, afterwards, I was like, I probably shouldn't have been nervous. If he was calling to tell me I didn't make the team, it probably wouldn't have been on Christmas morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, listen, guys, as far as Zacha goes, I think the Bruins are talking about it internally. I don't think they want to. I think the other side of this is they're looking at the next 3 drafts, and they have 5 first-round picks, including 4 in the next 2. So you've also just drafted James Higgins. Dean Letourneau is, looking like a good prospect right now, certainly better than he was last year. Will Zellers, who is now, I think, if not a blue chip prospect, maybe like a tier below that. Like he's right. He's in the system too. So, the Bruins could be looking at it as, how many first round picks do we need in the next 3 years? Like, I think the answer could be there's never too many, but you understand what I'm saying. They might be looking at it and say, well, we have 5 picks in the next 2-3 years in the first round, 4 in the next 2. So maybe they're looking at a situation where they can have their cake and eat it too with Zacha. Cause I don't think they want to move him. I think, if the Bruins have it their way, they can probably get something for Peak, Arvidsson, and maybe Middlestad, and maybe you keep Zacha. A question I have for you guys is, and Bridget, I know you have another commitment soon, but I know the contracts are not equal, so this is a tough question to answer. If all things were considered equal, which player would you rather hear for the next couple of years, Andrew Peak or Henry Jokiharju? Because Peak's the one that's on the expiring contract, and so that's why we're talking about moving on from him. And I haven't loved his game that much either. I'm with everybody who's been criticizing him. I don't like Jokiharju's game at all. And who's going to want him? And what are they gonna, is he going to be in your top 6 defense for the next couple of years? Like, if everybody's healthy, it's just like,
is there a third option?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, can you move on from him too? And now you're talking about Charlie McAvoy as your only right-handed shot defenseman. So I just think they put themselves in a weird spot with those 2 guys, where Peak's the guy that's expiring, and Jokiharju is one that's on the term. And I don't love either player, but I like Peak better. So I don't know. It's like, do I feel much better if they lose Peak, say they don't trade Peak and they lose him in free agency, but you still got Jokiharju? It's like, I don't know. I'd rather Peak over Jokiharju.
No,
all things considered equal.
I'm with you, but I mean, the Bruins already made their choice, really. Like, I think they knew that neither one of these guys is really a top 4 defenseman. So they signed Jokiharju to a 3 extension. Like,
but I don't even like
Jokiharju. I don't know where they thought there was going to be room for both of them. Like, I'm with you. I'd rather have Peak as my 3rd pairing right shot defenseman. But yeah, unless you can find someone to take Jokiharju, which I don't think you're gonna. Unfortunately, like, they already made their choice on that.
But that's why it's annoying. And we talked about it at the time. Like, we didn't think that. I mean, maybe you guys did, but I didn't think that they were going to sign him. Like, they didn't have to sign Jokiharju this summer. And I know it's like, well, they were short on right-handed shot guys, and like, it's easier said than done. But you had to give him 3 years. I don't even think he's he's a borderline top 6 guy, I think, right now. Truly. Like, if this roster's healthy, I think he's like my 7th, 8th guy. So good luck with him on the books for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that was one that I wasn't. I feel like he was one of the players that I was up in the air whether or not they were going to bring back this offseason. Him and Johnny Beecher were kind of the 2 guys that it was like, all right, are they going to give them an extension? Are they going to let them go? They end up bringing both guys back. Obviously, we know what happened to Johnny Beecher. He gets waived and claimed by Calgary. Jokiharju would have been right in that same book. And they got him from Buffalo after they traded Carlo because they needed a guy, right? At the time, they needed a guy to fill in on the back end because of the trades they had made exiting the Bruins. They had to bring someone in. And so they decided to go with him. And because he's got NHL experience, and by the way, he's going to be in the Olympics. But he's had some rough patches. And obviously right now he's coming back from injury. He made the road trip, finally got back in the lineup, which we haven't even talked about. Hampus Lindholm is out. So Jokiharju comes back in. Hampus Lindholm goes on IR. And Yeah, the Bruins are not in the most ideal situation with their defensemen, their group that they have, because once you get past McAvoy and Zadorov and Hampus Lindholm, those are question marks. And we talked about how Aspero has been actually really solid. I think we can make him fit. Like, I could see him in the future, right? I don't think I think he's done enough for us to consider him there. But with Hampus Lindholm having the injuries that he's had in the past few years, like, he's an obvious top 4 guy on your defense, but he's not there as often as you'd like him to be. And once again, he finds himself out of the lineup. And I know, Brian, you made the joke because Sturm said he's somewhere between day to day and week to week.
Day to week.
Like, all right, day to week. Great. New category.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say, I think if we had recorded Tuesday morning instead of Wednesday morning, we would have spent a lot more time talking about Hampus Lindholm, because Sturm's initial comments at Monday's practice sounded pretty discouraging, where he was like, it's more than a day-to-day thing. We have to wait till we get back to Boston for more testing. And then Tuesday pregame, he kind of clarified that a little bit and sounded not nearly as concerned, where like you referenced, he said it's not really day-to-day, but it's not really week-to-week either. And he said, it's not the next game, but maybe after that, like, he could be back.
I mean, like, a week? Like,
yeah, so like they put him on injury reserve, which means he's out 7 days. So he's out through Saturday's game. Now it sounds like it might not be much longer than that. So at least it seems like it's not anything long term, but yeah, that they will have to survive without him or try to survive without him for a couple more games.
Bridget, you mentioned Johnny Beecher, by the way, 2 assists in 19 games with Calgary. He has 3 points in the year in 25 games. But you mentioned a good option. Can Yoki Haru be waived? Does he have does he have anything in his contract against being waived? I guess that's, for some reason I always gloss over the fact that you can waive NHL players because like
you can
most of them have.
Yeah, you can waive him. He does not have a no move clause.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody.
Then you're just sitting on that money and it's buried down in Providence.
Yeah.
But
or somewhere else. What if someone takes him?
Does that? So if he got waived and nobody claimed him, his cap hit, even though he's in Providence, still goes against the Bruins books, the Boston Bruins books.
You can bury. I think it's like 1.1 million, so it would be a $1.9 million cap hit in the NHL.
Oh, well, whatever. I mean, I know if Don Sweeney were on this podcast right now, he'd use his raspy voice and tell me, well, Brian, Yoki Haru was a free agent last year. Peak wasn't. Like, it is what, like, he would give me his reasoning as to why he gave Yoki Haru the contract that he did, and it's whatever. I get it. I know the situation's unequal. One's a pending UFA this year, and one was one last year. But like, I just don't like that contract. I didn't like it from the start. Anyway, all right. Any final thoughts from the two of you before we sign out?
No, we didn't even touch on a couple of very quick amateur prospect notes. So Sweden won World Juniors since the last time we talked. My developing take, and I know I'm not alone in this, is if this might be recency bias. If I were drafting right now, I would take Ivar Stenberg over Gavin McKenna. Just loved the way he played at World Juniors. Thought it was a more complete game. We'll see if I still feel that way a few months from now. And then I'm wearing my BU sweatshirt.
Yeah,
today.
I was going to mention.
Tynan Lawrence heading to BU for the second semester could play as early as this weekend. I think Jay Pandolfo is talking to the media Wednesday afternoon, so
yeah,
maybe we'll get official word then.
Wednesday at 1:45.
Projected top 5 pick, top center in the 2026 draft. Was originally scheduled to go to BU next year, but is now coming mid-season. So that'll be exciting to see. I can't wait to watch him.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously changes my job because I work there, and we'll see. I'm not sure he'll be joining them this weekend, but they also have a game Monday against Harvard, so maybe he jumps in then. I feel like he'll be there right away, though. Like, my gut feeling is that he will be there Friday. They have 2 games against UMass this weekend, but both those things you mentioned change the the draft order. Like, they have the potential to change where guys are drafted and to pass Gavin McKenna. And Tynan Lawrence is a guy who also has the potential to go 1 overall because he is the top available center. So if you're desperate enough for a center and he has a good second half at BU where he's going to be on display more than he would have in the USHL, he has a legitimate chance to jump up the draft board as well. So that's something that I think Muskegon even put it in their statement, like, we want what's best for him, and this gives him a legitimate chance to try to go number 1. So once again, BU adds a guy, and I should mention BC adds a guy too. Oscar Hemming is going to BC for the second half, and then Tynan Lawrence to BU for the second half. And last year when BU added Yegorov to start the second half, that made a huge difference. So we'll see how much of a difference this makes. But if you're wondering more about it, tune into This Week in Hockey East, which I'm about to go head out of here to record. So Friday, 6:30. Go ahead.
And Hemming is a projected first-round pick this June too. So, you know, one thing is the Bruins, there's a legit chance the Bruins have 2 picks in the first round this year that are in the top 15 in the, I think that's legit. I mean, I think Toronto's pick maybe goes as low as like maybe 17, 18 overall, maybe, if they get their shit together. But one final note from me as well. Will Zellers, his World Juniors performance, small sample size, but his 1.6 points per game ranks 11th all time in USA World Junior Championship history, and it's 24th all time in terms of, you know, overall. He ranks 11th all time in points per game at World Juniors. He ranks 24th all time in single tournament points per game at the World Juniors. So not bad for a late addition to that roster either. I know we only played 5 games, so it was a small sample, but hey, not everybody plays 2 tournaments for World Juniors.
Great tournament for him. He was of the US's bright spots. He was probably the brightest. When you think of all that went wrong, he was kind of the constant high note that for them, and he almost didn't make the team. So I feel like that makes it even sweeter for him because he worked so hard. And the Bruins are certainly probably excited to see what some of those moves from last year's draft or from last year's trade deadline, I should say, have turned into.
Yep, absolutely. And for those wondering, James Higgins, I think his World Junior Championship tournament totals for his 2 years, I think was around 1.33 points per game. Don't quote me. I think it was something like that. And I think he ranks somewhere in the 20s or in terms of all-time single tournament, whatever.
And I think, didn't they give like 3 stars to the top 3 US guys, like top 3 guys on each team, and both of those guys got it, right? I believe
it was those 2 and Brody Zimmer, who I think I'd argue probably for someone else other than Brody Zimmer. It would have been Cole Hudson if he didn't miss 2 games due to injury. But, you know, you could have gone Chase Reed, who I thought really acquitted himself well. As someone who probably a month or 2 ago was considered a bubble player on this team and ended up as one of their 2 best defensemen along with Hudson, and Chase Reed, someone who could push his way into the top 5 in the draft.
All right. Well, Bridget, Scott, that'll do it for this episode. The Bruins next play the Ranger. No, they play the Flames 7 p.m. on tomorrow, Thursday night. So enjoy Bruins Flames Thursday, and we'll be back Friday to talk to you next. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.